Hey, how's it going? I'm Kyle Stewart, and I am an artist. I'm an artist. Now, mainly, I'm a painter, and as a painter, I've worked in a lot of different types of studios over the years. I have worked in large spaces and small spaces. Sometimes I share with other people. Sometimes I'm working alone. Despite all that, they've all had their pros and cons. And it got me thinking, is there one situation that's best for being creative, best for making art? Now, it doesn't matter if you're new to making art or if you've been at it for a really long time. Hopefully you can find something enjoyable with this video. And if you do, maybe you could give it a like, maybe hit subscribe. While you're at it, you can also visit me on Instagram at Kyle P. Stewart. Now, the reason I wanted to make this video was because I've just recently moved into a new studio, and the nice thing about moving into a new space is that it's an opportunity for a fresh start, maybe shake things up a little bit, try something different. It's also an opportunity maybe to have a clean space, even if it's just for a little while. Now, what about you and where you make your art? Is it a nice big space? Is it maybe just a little corner of your room? Do you keep it tidy, or is it a complete mess and a disaster and things all over the place? Do you find it works well for you? Do you think you would do better if you had a different kind of space? Let me know in the comments below what you have going on and how it works out for you. But why don't we get out of here? Let's head over to the studio. That way I can do a little bit of work while I share my thoughts with you, and we can take a closer look at a brain on art. Alright, so welcome to my current studio space. Got myself a new painting shirt here to kick off the new studio. You might be asking, yo Kyle, what's with the chef jacket? Well, it seemed appropriate since I hope to cook up some good stuff on the canvas here. So now I'm just getting that palette ready to go. And apologies for the wasted paint, my bad. Clearly I just love throwing away money. So now I'm just getting everything else set up, getting the easel ready. I'm going to pick out the paints that I want to use. I tend to have a favorite brand for each color that I use. I'm going to go with a small canvas here today, and oh, here, take it easy. Oh yeah, very, very clever, Kyle. Okay. So now I'm just picking out my brushes, and only the cheapest brushes for this guy because I love to destroy my brushes. Oh yeah. So deep thoughts here, and letting the head breathe, letting all the creativity. Oh, and then we're off. Here we go. And please do marvel in the speed at which I paint. This is not sped up in any way, of course. I do have the uncanny ability to paint faster than the average human. Now, when I think back to all the places where I've done my painting and drawing before I was able to have a space that was just for making art, I remember a time that was probably similar to most of you. As a kid, I would find whatever paper and pens were around and draw at the kitchen table or on my bedroom floor. Wherever I could, whenever I was in the mood to put my imagination to paper. By the time I began high school, I had a drafting table in the corner of my bedroom. I would spend hours there making pictures and mostly doing drawings of rock stars and hockey players. And I'll admit, my room was very untidy, but that didn't seem to hinder my ability to create, and maybe that mess was a reflection of my chaotic teenage mind. And perhaps that gave me some comfort as well. Well, then I was off to art school, and that's where I had my first taste of life in an art studio. I had this space that was tucked away behind the stage of an auditorium. It was rough, dirty, no windows, and it was terrific. It was a large space that made it seem as though I now had all this extra room in my mind to fill up with creativity. However, I did struggle at first. I was trying so hard to be clever, yet my paintings were not working out. Eventually, I convinced myself to stop worrying about what I should be doing, and instead, I simply painted in whatever way felt good in the moment. And suddenly things improved. Here's a photo of me in that studio. You can see that working in a messy space still seemed like the way to go. By the way, I shared that studio with a guy named Paul Seri. He's the one that took this picture. And still to this day, he's a great friend and a fantastic painter. And if you don't already, I strongly recommend that you follow him on Instagram. You can find him at Paul_Seri. So when school was over with and I no longer had a studio that I could make a mess of, I was now working in my living room. Every day when I would have my morning coffee, or when I would eat a meal, watch TV, or surf the web, or play my guitar, there was my easel staring at me. Now there is some advantage to always being able to instantly start painting whenever the mood strikes, and I was by myself there most of the time. And spending time alone with your thoughts can be good for creativity and productivity, but working alone, it began to take its toll on me after a few years. I think I was starting to suffer from cabin fever, and whenever I did see people, I noticed that my conversational skills were not what they used to be. One day I had a surprise visit from fellow artist and friend Sean Downey. I was in the middle of preparing for a show, and my home studio was full of canvases and wet paint. Sean was greeted at the door by the smell of oil and paint thinner, like a punch to the face, and he told me I was starting to act a little bit squirrely. In time, I realized that the solitary lifestyle was losing its positive effect, and my energy was dropping, and I needed a change. By the way, for those of you that are wondering, I'm mostly working wet into wet. It's usually my preference to take advantage of colors blending on the surface. Some situations, like where I'm adding in details closer to the end or repainting an area like the side walls in this picture, then I'm working back over colors that are just dry enough to not mix with the new paint that I'm putting down. Anyway, after that solitary home studio experience, I eventually teamed up with Sean Downey and Kelly Grace and Gosha, each a very talented artist and a good friend. And again, please be sure to follow them on Instagram if you don't already, at Sean Downey Art, at Kelly Grace Art, and at Gosha Fine Art. So now this studio that we had, it was spacious and bright. We would joke around with each other, share our thoughts. It was a really social environment. The energy was buzzing, and there was exciting changes happening in my work. And the four of us went on this way for several years. And then, once again, like in previous situations, something changed. I began to crave that solitary workspace I had years earlier. It's like my brain was receiving too much input, and I needed to spend time alone with my thoughts and refocus. Now you may have noticed I added in those little blue and turquoise details in this painting. That sort of thing wasn't planned, but in the moment it seemed like a nice way to play off the other more dominant colors in the picture, especially the yellows and oranges. I try to let the painting process direct my choices from moment to moment, and I try to be receptive to change and unexpected choices, and the same could be said for where I do my work. Sometimes a good thing is only good for a while. You might crave something different, but that new thing might simply be a step towards the next thing, and that's all right. I think what's important is being able to admit when a change is needed so you don't end up spending too long in the wrong situation and feeling stuck. I think where your workspace is at is less important than where your head is at. Whether it's a desk in the corner of your room or a big, spacious studio, chaotic or tidy, the best place to make art is the place that energizes you. And if you're like me, then that place might be somewhere different every few years. Now, thanks again for watching this video, and if you did enjoy it, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. Maybe hit the notification bell, and maybe follow me on Instagram to check out more work.